So let's just jump into it, guys. All right, so this is SDA Belief, Adventist.org. And also, for those who say that we are just saying things out of context, in the green at the bottom of your screen, I provide the receipts. That's where you can find them, screenshot them if you need to, right? Watch the stream again, find them, okay? So that's there. So Adventist.org beliefs, this is the gift of prophecy. It says the scriptures testify that one of the gifts of the Holy Spirit is prophecy. This gift is an identifying mark of the remnant church, and we believe it was manifested in the ministry of Ellen G. White. Her writings speak with prophetic authority. Y'all caught that. And provide comfort, guidance, instruction, and correction to the church. They also make clear that the Bible is a standard by which all teaching and experience must be tested. Okay, y'all know this, all right? This was alluded to earlier. Selected Messages, Book 1, page 27. In these letters, which I write, in the testimonies I bear. And guys, what are testimonies?
Writings of Ellen White, or specifically the volumes of the testimony books.
There you go. Okay, so in general, we talked about the writings. Yeah, I am presenting to you that which the Lord has presented to me. I do not write one article in the paper expressing merely my own ideas. They are what God has opened before me in vision, the precious rays of light shining from the throne. Okay, the precious rays of light shining from the throne, and we're gonna see if these are precious rays of light, and you have to tell me. Okay, so here she says, this is the object in question here, the line in question. If there was one sin above another, which called for the destruction of the race by the flood, it was the base crime of amalgamation of man and beast, which defaced the image of God and caused confusion everywhere. God purposed to destroy by a flood that powerful, long-lived race that had corrupted their ways before him. All right, this is Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 64. See it for yourselves, okay? So what's the base crime, guys?
Amalgamation
of man and beast, okay?
Yep.
So this is what she says. Now, she also says this: every species of animal which God had created were preserved in the ark. The confused species which God did not create were the result of amalgamation, were destroyed by the flood. And since the flood, there has been amalgamation of man and beast, as may be seen in the almost endless varieties of species of animals and in certain races of men. Did y'all catch that? I'm going slow here, okay? Yep. Did y'all catch that? This is Spiritual Gifts, Volume 3, page 75. You guys can find it, okay? Now, again, precious rays of light from the throne. Okay, now, or from the bookshelf. That's the question. Okay. In the article True Blood, Race, Science, and Early Adventist Amalgamation Theory Revisited by Ronald Osborne, this is in Spectrum magazine. And just to be fair, guys, I tried to find the Spectrum magazine. I don't see that one often. Okay, so, but the Osborne article is available on Academia. So you can find that there, okay? But this is where it's from here. It says in 1867, 1 year before Smith published his defense of White's words on amalgamations. We'll get to that, guys, okay? 1 year before, Tennessee clergyman Buckner H. Payne published under the pseudonym Ariel the second edition of his book, okay? The Negro, what is his ethnological status? I have not been able to discover when the first edition appeared, whether before or after Spiritual Gifts. This is Osborne saying that. The quote continues, Payne used a vocabulary of, catch it, crime and confusion, very close to White's, to explain Noah's flood. God could not tolerate the crime of amalgamation. Remember what Ellen White wrote, okay? Payne wrote that this sin of association with beasts that had produced various races. I'm going to continue. But whereas Uriah Smith argued in defense of White's prophetic authority that amalgamated blood is no worse than the blood of any sinner, and that Christians must labor for the improvement of the quote-unquote lower races, Payne heaped vile abuse on those working to raise the political and social standing of African Americans. The states of people that favor this equality, this is Paine talking, God will exterminate. And that ellipsis is in the PDF there. He said, you cannot elevate a beast to the level of a son of God. Okay? Talking about black folk there. When placed alongside Paine's racist screed, some might argue Smith's defense of White's statement on amalgamation thus represented a significant advance in racial thinking for the time. For one thing, Paine does not assume that animal-human amalgamation produced African Americans. He assumes that blacks were created beasts to begin with, so that black-white amalgamations were in fact the original animal-human amalgamations. Uh-oh. Okay.
Wow.
This is Ellen White's contemporaries. You're talking about this. Okay. Continuing. Paine's use of the term amalgamation should dispense once for all with F.D. Nichols' claim, repeated by a number of Adventist writers since, that in mid-19th century America, the word was not used to describe animal-human combinations. It clearly was. We can finish the stream right here, but we're not gonna, right? This is precisely why White was immediately understood by both her critics as well as Smith to be saying that racial differentiation was the result of animal-human hybridizations. That's on page 9 of our Osborne's article. All right, you guys can jump in there if you'd like to, or
do you have Smith's quote, or do you want me to bring that up right now?
Oh, I got it. Yeah, it's coming up. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll wait for it then. It's
right.
just disgusting.
And CMB, it wasn't just Paine who was speaking like this. There were a number of guys who were literally writing on the subhumanity of whites to blacks and blacks rather, the subhumanity of blacks to whites and Caucasian races. For example, books like Negromania, what is the black man, human or beast, and a number of them were purporting the same idea. And the same ideas surrounding black and white interracial marriages and banning them, the segregation, etc. All of these were floating around. In fact, Ellen White had these in her library as well. So she was drawing from a lot of these books and reproducing their racist statements and ideologies and claiming that they were from God.
Mm-hmm. All right. Miles, I put something in the back chat if you don't mind checking that out here. So Miles is going to post a link to an article from harvard.edu talking about scientific racism. Okay. That's a whole thing. Okay. And its tendrils still cling to this very day. Okay. I work healthcare, and there are a lot of things and assumptions that happen to be in healthcare that are based out of scientific racism to this very day. All right. So y'all need to be paying attention to what's going on. And just kind of as a matter of fact here, Serena Williams, the world-class tennis player, almost lost her life based on some issues that happened. And it's very likely, I'm not going to get into that tonight, but it's very likely that it had to do with her race. So we're not going to get into that right now. We don't have time for it, but it's a thing. Okay. So just trust and believe that for now. Okay. So moving on. So let's get to Uriah Smith's defense here. That's where we were. Okay, so whatever, and this is published in the Review and Herald, 1866 here. Is that said? Yeah, getting reader glasses. All right,
CMB.
Yes, sir.
CMB. Just before you go into Smith's defense, let's provide some backdrop why his defense was necessary.
Sure, go ahead.
You had several Adventist pastors, thinkers, and evangelists who actually had left Adventism at that time. And the amalgamation issue was one of the main issues they were constantly agitating and pushing to the public as to what makes for a false prophet. So, for example, the Canwright, Snook and Birkenkoff, you had several of these respected former SDAs who were pushing this issue out there as proof that she's a false prophet, and who were close associates of her, who were actually saying that it was confided to them what Ellen White meant about amalgamation that God did not create the darky, which was a racial slang for black people or the Negroes, etc.
Mhm.
And so they were saying that, the visions of Ellen White cannot be from God. And how she's racist and how she views black people, etc. And so as a result of this, Uriah Smith was tasked by the General Conference of Seventh-day Adventists to actually write the visions of Ellen White defended. And one of the glaring and most prominent issues was amalgamation of man and beast. And so he wrote this treatise defending a variety of things pertaining to why Ellen White is legitimate. And he defended what she said about amalgamation of man and beast is actually correct. So that is the sort of background, brothers and sisters, that eventuated Uriah Smith's defense of Ellen White's amalgamation of man and beast.
Well, there you have it, folks. Background information. Okay. Here we go back to the slides. Okay. So this is Uriah Smith's defense. And again, it was published in the Review and Herald. And you can see the date at the bottom. And here it says, quote, whatever race of men we may take, Bushmen, Hottentots, Patagonians, or any class of people, however low they may apparently be in the scale of humanity, which we'll talk about that later, their mental capacities are in every instance the basis on which we are to work, and which we determine whether they are subjects of moral government or not. Then what about all this to do over the charge, which is in itself false, that the visions teach that the Negro is not a human being? What does it amount to? It is simply an effort to create prejudice in the minds of the people, unworthy anyone who makes any pretension to being a Christian or even a gentleman. This is Uriah Smith's part of his answer anyway to deal with it, right? So Ellen White was right. And if we look at the Bushmen, the Hottentots, and Patagonians, however low they may be, right, we can still work with them because they might have some of Adam's blood. That's coming later, okay? And just so we're clear, when we talk about these people groups, we're talking about the Bushmen or the San people in Southern Africa, okay? They're actually people, not animals, okay? Hottentots, aka the Khoikhoi people, who also live very close to the Sans, right? We have the Patagonians, aka the Tehuelches, right? Tehuelches, that's it. Native South American people group. Okay, so they're darker skinned people, and if you notice, all in common, again, they're darker skinned or black people. Again, shout out to BK Apologist. If you check out his channel, we had a stream not long ago talking about Revelation chapter 13 and the beast image that comes out of the earth. In Revelation 13, and that's also based in racism, so you can find that there. And I'm not a CRT practitioner. I don't believe in that. I'm not some social justice warrior. I'm a person that's down for truth. So please check that out, and so your worldview can be put up to the test and see what's what. Okay, great controversy. You know what that says in there. The land was empty. Was the land empty? Find out for yourself. Okay. All right. So some attempt at cleaning this up. Okay, some attempts at cleaning this up. First, this is from the White Estate. What is the general meaning of the word amalgamation? Is it ever used to describe the depraved act of cohabitation of man with beast? Right? No dictionaries we have ever had access to, not even the exhaustive Oxford English Dictionary, indicate that the term has ever been used to describe this act. There is another standard English word that may be properly used to describe such cohabitation. Okay. The primary usage of the word amalgamation through long years have been to describe the fusion of certain metals, and by extension to denote the fusing of races of men. Wait, what? Did y'all catch that? In the mid-19th century, the word was commonly employed in the United States to describe the intermarriage of the white and the Negro race. Okay. The crux of the amalgamation passages is this: amalgamation of man and beast. That statement could be construed to mean the amalgamation of man with beast, or amalgamation of man and of beast. FD Nickel Defense. In a construction like this, the preposition of is not necessarily repeated, though it may be clearly implied. Just real quick, how can something might be clearly implied?
Yes, oxymoronic.
It's ridiculous. Okay, and if you notice, they're destroying themselves here. Okay, we might speak of the scattering of man and beast over the earth, but we do not therefore mean that previously man and beast were fused in one mass at one geographical spot. We simply mean that the scattering of man over the earth and the scattering of beasts over the earth, though the original locations of the two groups might have been on opposite sides of the earth. In other words, the scattering of man and beast. This is what they want you to believe that amalgamation means. So animals are over here someplace. Human beings are over here someplace. So they're amalgamating by being scattered and then coming together. Really.
How does that mar the image of God?
You know, how is that a base crime of all crimes that warrants total annihilation? Even if it's races of men, how does a white man marrying a black woman become such a base crime, a heinous act that warrants their total annihilation? Again, it still does not compute.
It is unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And by the way, EJ, they're saying that you can't hear. Oh, you brought the mic up? Okay. But yeah, this is it doesn't make any sense, this defense. Okay. This is an EGW estate, by the way. So kind of, if you know, the EGW estate wants you to believe that the term amalgamation was not used to denote sexual union between man and beast. That's what they said, right? But it did refer to the fusion of metals. Is fusion pushing apart or coming together? Anybody help me out? Fusion
together.
Of course. Fusion of metals and races of men, including intermarriage. Hello. So if there's intermarriage, you think a man and wife, if they're married, might have sex every now and again? I don't know.
It's a standard kind of thought.
I don't know. Or maybe you have to save yourself because of the of animal passions and such.
But didn't they just say that no?
Yeah.
Didn't they just say that no dictionary ever used this word in that way?
That's what they said. The same quote. Like it's let's go back. So this is the thing. The White Estate there. .org legacy issues /amalgamation. Just put amalgamation in there and you can find it for yourself. It's crazy. Okay. We mean the scattering of man. No. Oh gosh. Is scattering even a viable option for the use of the term fusion?
That's like the exact opposite of what fusion is. Fusion is not a scattering.
Good Lord. And for those in the back that aren't catching what we're going on, let's go to a dictionary. Okay. Fusion. Okay, the process or result of joining two or more things to form a single entity. Oh, and look, it says amalgamation for people that can't read the small print. Okay. Fusion is the result of joining two or more things to form a single entity, also known as amalgamation. Dummy. Okay, so we can stop with the nonsense. Again, the EGW estate wants you to believe that the term amalgamation was not used to denote sexual union between a man and beast, but it did refer to the fusion of metals and races of men, including intermarriage. Make it make sense, please.
It doesn't say what you're claiming it says, even though it does say what you're claiming it says.
Glad to clear that up. Right. So this is absolute not this, and this is what your church is telling you. Okay. Like, okay, fact. There's no definition of amalgamation on the planet that denotes scattering. There is none. It doesn't exist.
Like, give me a break, man. This should show people how desperate of an attempt and a defense this is. Like, come on, man.
It's terrible. Okay. All right. Gotta move on a little bit. Okay, so Ellen White's contemporaries disagree with the current defense proposed by the White estate. Okay, and some folks in her day had questions about the validity of her statements as well. Her day, her contemporaries. Okay, so Spirit of Prophecy. Okay, this is G.V. Kilgore, and he writes in the Review and Herald on November 28th, 1878. Spirit of Prophecy, Volume 1, page 78, that's the quote we just read, was referred to and ridiculed by a Baptist minister. He said that what Sister White said about amalgamation of man and beast was utterly impossible. Wait a second. What was the standard defense from the Ellen White estate here? That it just meant fusion, right? Intermarry.
Yeah, which is a scattering.
Right. So you can't intermarry or scatter or fuse. Okay. Just so we're clear, keeping up. Okay. So I referred him, this is Kilgore talking. I referred him to Johnson's New Cyclopedia, pages 1040 to 1040 and 1042, that he might learn for the first time, because you don't understand Mrs. White. Yeah, you might learn for the first time, if he never knew it before, that, quote, allied species are capable, as a rule, of pairing and producing offspring, end quote. Miles, how do you produce offspring? Keep it PG. But.
Again, I am one of these mixed race amalgamated species, so maybe my thinking faculties are not the strongest, but I believe after having a son myself, it's through intercourse.
Yep,
that's cohesion. There you go. Okay, offspring, and that under the influence of man, mongrel races. Hello, pay attention. Mongrel races readily arise and are indefinitely sustained. What? Just exactly what Sister White says. So, my friends, we have to ask, was Sister White referring to pairing and producing offspring? Kilgore thinks that.
And he wasn't alone. Yeah.
No, he was not. People have to understand, for almost 90 years, 83 years to be exact, this was the standard understanding and defense of all Adventists. In fact, when it was first proposed, April 1931, by George McCready Price, that they shift the wording by adding the additional of, so as to not make it look like she was actually saying man and animals interbreeding. It caused a massive controversy in the Adventist church that D.E. Robinson, he was Ellen White's personal secretary for years. He stepped up and immediately shut the argument down. He refuted McCready Price's article and said it did violence to what Ellen White meant, because he personally knew what Ellen White meant, being her secretary, and he went through Ellen White's literature, what she had to say on the issue, and proved that she did mean amalgamation of man and beast to refer to humans interbreed with animals. And brothers and sisters, for the next 16 years until 1947, when the issue blew up again, no one dared try to respond to and refute D.E. Robinson. He settled the issue. The entire Adventist church was settled on the matter when he refuted this first reinterpretation of man and of beast, to make it seem like of man refers to different types of humans and of beast refers to different types of beasts. He refuted that. But then it had to come back, because they were going to lose credibility in 1947 if they did not embrace the of man and of beast, which has become the standard SDA interpretation and argumentation today. And we'll see why that is so. Continue, sir.
CMB, really quick, to support what EJ just said, I'd like to share a quote from a primary source.
Oh, yeah.
A primary source, folks.